Welcome to Tellis Like It Is, a show on which we chat with really interesting people, and in the process of that chat, get to know them a lot better. Get to know the person behind the personality. I have with me today a young lady who's a firebrand. She's a fireball of energy. I suppose you could say that when she walks into a room, she makes very, very sure that everyone knows that she's in the room. And by the way, we love her for that. I speak of my dear, dear friend, Kubbra Sait.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, my mom's always said this to me, that I don't watch TV in my house, but when I'm in some other place, somebody else's house, or like a hotel lobby, the television's going on, I'm just gaping at it. So when you were like giving that beautiful introduction, I was just gaping at you.
Were you?
Yeah, like that's so amazing. Like he speaks so well.
Which reminds me, when I first met this gorgeous, talented young lady, I think it was a decade plus ago,
True.
Give or take.
True.
I was at this convention, I think it was, and I was making a small presentation, which I did, and I finished the presentation, and this young lady whom I didn't know at that time, along with a friend whom I did know, come up to me, and we were greeting each other, and she went on to say, "Hey, you have got a really nice voice and a nice style of presentation. You should actually become an anchor."
Oh God, you remember that? Oh, sweet, you remember? That was my line. I thought you didn't know it.
I do, and I'm looking at you, and I didn't know how to react. I mean,
and you were like already like 2 decades into the business of like talking, right? And I didn't know that. That was like, wow.
But that was the cutest thing.
Yeah, you should be a presenter. Have you considered it? He's like, you think they made me the president of this association just like that?
Well, that was fun. And that's why I must admit that I love you so much, because of your brutal honesty, your ability to live in the moment, your ability to say things that consume you at that point in time or have impressed you.
Oh,
more power to you, lady. More power to you. Speaking of which, it takes me to Sacred Games.
Jesus.
It's unbelievable what you did in that web series. And I want to ask you, was it a tough decision to do what Cuckoo did in that web series? I'm not going to kind of elaborate, but the character had a certain implication. The manifestation of that character had, wow, implications. What did it take you to say yes to that? How quickly did that happen? Did you think about it? What drove you?
So there are 2 aspects to it. The first is that no one's ever asked me about the journey of Cuckoo and not about Kubbra. So Cuckoo has its own journey as a character. For me, I think this character spoke about survival back in the day. It spoke about ambition. It spoke about the will to survive, the will to fight, and not be ashamed of who she is as a person. So the anatomy of Cuckoo was of a man, but her conviction was so strong that she wanted to be her. She wanted to be addressed as the most beautiful woman in the room. And that's the kind of confidence that Cuckoo spoke of as a character. So I think that's what drew me as Kubbra to grasp that opportunity. But more importantly, you know me as, through the journey of being an anchor. And every single time I did something small, something which was a hit and a miss, I always believed that's going to change my career or the trajectory of my career, right? And again, for me, at this juncture where I was, it was very simple. It was like, there's work and there's no work. So I'd rather go for work, which is substantial, and just the kind of benefits it brought around it, around the periphery, the kind of people I was associating myself with. I was associating myself with the Anurag Kashyap.
You're right.
It was the biggest production house at that point of time who was making this show. It was the biggest platform for OTT or the web-based shows that we are talking about, being Netflix. And then there is this crazy, charismatic human being that we all love called Nawazuddin Siddiqui, who I was going to share screen, space, and time with. And for me, that was more than enough to say yes. And honestly, I did not know what Cuckoo brought to the table at that time, because the minute I heard, yes, you're doing this role, the first thing I did is walk up to Tidal Waves and bought the book. I went through the glossary of characters and there was no cuckoo. So I called Anurag. I said, Anurag, there is no cuckoo. He's like, book phek de. I'm like, book phek de means isn't this a show from the book? And he says, yeah, tu nahi hai, magar tu hai. I'm like, dude, this is truly magical, some sort of a mythical, mystical character that you've created. He's like, do you trust me? I'm like, I don't know you. How do you trust someone you don't know? He said, just trust me. All I need you to do is bring yourself and bring your most comfortable self. The minute you feel discomfort, everybody else, and a set, as you know, has about 100 people working, right? From the light man to,
right,
the director, to the assistants, to everybody. There are 100 people. He said, if you feel uncomfortable, you make the 100 people around you uncomfortable.
Now I'm going to interject here. There was the image of the real Kubbra Sait, and there is the character you play. Did you at any point in time figure that one might have a ramification on the other because of the explicit character, explicit scenes around the character?
No, I mean, the choice of taking up the job was very simple, work or no work. But then I honestly started unraveling a lot about myself while I was playing Cuckoo. So that's where, that sense of complimenting yourself comes in. The sense of owning who you are comes in. The sense of, being unapologetic in front of the camera comes in. All of that is an extension of who I am. So Cuckoo, if you look at it in the broader sense, is an extension of who I am, because you've seen the journey that, I've led over the last decade or so. I have never been apologetic about a decision I've made. Whether it was me playing a maid in the first film I ever acted in, or this role that defined my career and kind of changed it.
That kind of answers what was in my mind, because I was obviously following you like many other millions of Indians and,
hey, he
people
likes
from
my,
outside.
He likes my Instagram posts, okay?
I do.
I blush every time they Brian Tellis one, like this photo.
Stop it. There was a lot of criticism.
Of course.
A lot of criticism. Now, what really came across to me, a larger sense of maturity than I have seen in very many people. I think you grew bigger than ego. You grew bigger than...
age.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it. I mean, did that come easy to you?
So yes, of course. Like, there's a time when you read a message, you just go like, no man, not again. Like, what the hell? Like, really, what is this human being thinking? I mean, just because you have a keypad, nobody would know where you send this message from or who you are. You can just throw anything because there are no ramifications, right? When you speak to anybody. And also what's happened is with the social media world that you live in, they believe they own you. They believe they can say anything to you. You would never say that to somebody to their face. If you can say it to their face, then you say it on social media. If you can't, then think twice before writing it. But that's what I got. So there were two aspects to it. One, in the larger perspective, the larger spectrum of media and press, there was nothing but praise. There was nothing but support. But of course, there is like a smaller segment of people who thought they were trying to be cute or trying to strike a conversation by asking me, oh, ma'am, are you really she-male? Like, my reaction to that used to be like, just go and check out the history of Instagram. I've been on it for the last 4 years. Take a look and tell me, do you believe I'm an actor or I am the person you see? So what I felt was there was wisdom that was lacking in certain people who tried to, reach out for my attention. That's the way I looked at it. Of course, there were times when I was like, I want to be angry and I want to lash out at you. But then there is this thing that you draw or you learn being in the public space. You need to have two faces.
Huge respect.
Thank you. So I removed all my frustration on my mother. It was easy.
And
do you know what he texted me? Yeah, so my friend.
which actually brings me to the next area of chat that I'd really like to get your, notes on. This is the Kubbra we know, right? I want to roll back the years to a really tiny Kubbra, a young, impressionable girl, cute, I must add as well, as an adjective. There you go.
First day of school. First day of school.
Yeah.
First day of school, right?
First day of school.
First day of school. Yeah, I was tall. Yeah, first day of school.
And then she grew up.
Wow, rapidly, I must say.
No, so were you as confident? Were you an introvert? Tell us about your growing up years. Was it comfortable? Were you comfortable with who you were?
Interesting. So at this stage, I was very comfortable with myself. So I remember soon after this, I have a picture where we had a fancy dress competition in school. So this was army school. And my mom dressed me up. Damn, you guys! Okay, she dressed me up as Indira Gandhi. Okay, so that's me as Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was like the freaking sensation the country had seen at that point of time. And that mic was too high. So I actually went up to them.
Evidently.
Yeah, and I said, please bring this down, apparently. That's what mom says. And I said, Sare bachche saath mein bolo Jai Hind. Is that what I said? Sare bachche milke bolo Jai Hind. So at this age of my life, I was the most confident thing you've ever seen.
So there are stories about you being teased about your name and stuff
That was
like
standard 4.
Oh, that was standard 4.
That
Tell
was
us about
standard
that.
4. So what happened was, when you're like a little naughty or mischievous or whatever, people tend to scare you with the unknown. So there was this unknown entity which I had never interacted with in my school at that point of time. But her name was Mrs. Dias. And Mrs. Dias was, Drogon. You had to be scared of Mrs. Dias. So they would keep saying, you do whatever you want to, but when you go to 4th grade, Mrs. Dias will set you straight.
Is that right?
Mrs. Dias will set you straight. So there was a fear of Mrs. Dias even before we went to 4th grade, that Mrs. Dias will set us straight. But as they say, when you say, when you keep harping on this fear becomes real, and this reality is larger than life. And I don't know how, but I actually fell prey to Mrs. Dias.
So, in 4th grade, you have a tyrant teacher. Something's got to kind of work for you to retain sanity levels. I'm going to quickly move to your home. Okay, and I'm going to take a few liberties here. You grew up single-parented.
Okay.
Your wonderful, wonderful mother, Yasmin, brought you and Danish up. Here's one scene where you're being kind of traumatized at school. And here's the other home where there is this beautiful, strong lady who's bringing you and your brother up. Tell us a little bit about that.
No, so, every time I would be thrashed down, not physically, but mentally, you can't fight back to Mrs. Dias, right? So you tend to build this esteem, and eventually you crumble. I crumbled to the extent that, the person I am who can speak to 1 million people through the camera without inhibition, or an audience of 1,000, 10,000, 15,000 people today without inhibition, I could not speak to my mom in one room. She would be the only person in the room, and I would stammer. I would stutter. I would cry. What happened would be the trigger to cry. And at that time, it would be kind of false to say that she was the only single parent, because at that time, my mom didn't know better. And she said, for my children, no matter what I'm going through, I need my partner for this to be a balanced home. So she stuck it through with my dad for 25 years without bringing it to our attention in whatever best way she could. So she always tried to make him the front runner. And unfortunately, at that situation, while I was being bullied outside my home, in my home, my father never understood the situation. And he said, everybody has been bullied in their life. We don't understand what bullying is all about. It doesn't matter. She will go to the same school. It went on to the extent of saying, don't change her school. We don't have that kind of money. Send her to government school. So all of that is stirring around, wherein you have one person who's fighting for you against odds. One person who's your lifeboat against all odds. And I can't communicate to that person. So I'm in that situation. It's so weird, right? Like talking about it today gives me goosebumps. And
How did you overcome that? How did you retain
I
sanity?
don't think I would have been able to if she hadn't stood up against the world and against her home.
Right.
Because back in the day, I'm talking about what? 30 years ago, right? You're talking about standing against the person. And we're talking about a patriarch society.
Right.
Right? You're talking about a husband who's earning for you. And you stand up against that guy and say, I don't care. This is right for my child. And you shift that child's school not once, but thrice. So I've gone to Kendra Vidyalaya. She has sent me to Sacred Heart Girls High School. And then eventually I found my way to New Horizon, where we had to pay donation, and she didn't have money to pay that donation. But she did everything to make sure that I get through my first level of education. And I'm not kidding you when I say this. My mom today possibly is seeking herself to spirituality, but we've never been a family where we've had imposed religion and this is structure and this is how you need to follow religion. But my mom always said this. She said that if Kubbra finishes her 10th standard, it's like doing my first round of Hajj. That's the kind of desperation she had for me to finish my first level of education. She didn't have any more dreams for me. She just wanted me to finish my 10th grade. And thereafter, finishing my pre-university, graduation, and everything around my education or like social interaction brought a lot of, pressure on this woman. I remember being horrible at one point and trying to be like, I don't want to go to that school, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And I remember her standing at the cash counter of her supermarket and she said, I'm going to ask you for the last time, do you want to go to school or not? No. She counted the money like this, handed it over to a supplier and said, that's it, no more education for you. The biggest bolt, like the jolt of my life, because now I know she's the only provider.
A life-changing moment.
Went back to begging, groveling, apologizing. Fine, I'll do what you are saying. I will go back to school. I'll do this and everything. This woman has gone back, borrowed money on loan.
Wow.
And paid my school fees. And it was not her sense of teaching me a lesson. It was more of me taking a taste of life.
So,
and possibly you don't even think of it today, but
no,
it is what it is.
The relationship is pretty evident.
Yeah.
I mean, a blind person would see the strength in the relationship.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another quick, kind of swatch of your life. You were in Dubai.
Yeah.
You were
She sent me there.
She sent you there. So you were there, and if my memory serves me right, you were in a well-placed kind of position at Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, I found my way to Microsoft. My first job ever was working in a cookie shop.
Is that right? Oh, you waited on tables.
Yeah, I did. I waited tables, I cleaned refrigerators, and I was like, I'm this person, like I'm a self-made person. I'm going to like create this magic on my own and everything.
That you're still doing, lady. That you're still doing.
Thanks. I just don't have to wait tables except my own in my own house.
Hey, if I know you and if you had to do it all over again,
I would.
I know you would. I know you would.
I would.
But I want to ask you, so you gave up all of those seemingly comfortable kind of scenarios in Dubai, or it could have been anywhere else. And you made up your mind to come back to the country and build a fresh career.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A little bit about that. What drove you to do that?
I think it was...
Conventional wisdom says you're working with a multinational and a big multinational.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a great place like Dubai, which is a fair blend of, east, west, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I'm Kubbra and I choose to go back to India and I choose to make a fresh career. So give us the intelligence behind that.
So it was a calculated risk that I took. And that's fair to say that I spoke to mom about it. But I remember she hadn't visited me in many years that I had lived there. I moved there in 2005. And I think the first time she visited me was somewhere around early 2008, end of 2007. And I was so sure that I'm going to have her there for those 3 months, pack my bags, send one half of my luggage back home. Next 3 months, pack the rest, and in 6 months, I'm out of Dubai. But there was something in her that said that if you've created something from nothing to something on your own, you can recreate this anywhere. I have no doubts that you will. I trust in you more than maybe you trust in yourself. You will make it, but I want you to be smart about it. So she asked me to stick around, work as hard as I was working in the same company, but while I was doing that, she asked me to save money. This whole saving for the rainy day.
Yep.
That happened with that conversation with her. So we were sitting on this roadside restaurant where we were eating a manakish, which is like an open pizza, open shawarma pizza kind of a thing. And we didn't have papers to write on. So the guy who was taking the order, we took his papers, we took a pen, and I still have those notes with me, by the way, wherein we put down strengths, weaknesses, how much money I need, blah, blah, blah. We put that plan down. And a year later, I wanted to move to Bombay with like 10 lakhs or something that would allow me the freedom to live like a king in this city, where I knew nobody. And I really knew nobody in this city. When I moved in, my only so-called contacts were through Facebook at that point of time. I knew that I had to survive this city, not struggle, but survive this city. So I needed to have a balance that would, back me up. She made that possible.
Great. Any dichotomy, any pull and push when mom or momager, should I be saying?
She wasn't momager at that point. She became momager after I moved here.
So moving to the momager syndrome,
yeah,
you're drawing probably one of the toughest things. You're drawing a balance between a mom who was so relevant to you,
yeah,
and a manager, which is a very professional relationship that talent has with its management.
right.
Pulls and pushes.
Jesus, yes. Oh God. But wait, I think before we get to that part, which was a learning for both of us, it was about coming back and revisiting her life. So there was a stage in her life where she was struggling with the upkeep of a corporate job herself. It was pretty similar to what I was experiencing, which is why I moved. At some point, apparently, you need to have a certain game plan, a this, a that, when you're working in the corporate. And you're too, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? So my mom, being the entrepreneur that she was and the kind of life she had led, it gets difficult when somebody tells you to do something. And I could see her fading. And it sounds poetic in a sense, but I could see her being me when I was a child. So when I was sitting a mess in Bombay, not knowing where my life should go, the only person I could rely on was the expertise of my mom.
Right.
So she joined in, or rather she just was drawn into my world, which she knew nothing about, and frankly, I knew nothing about, 10 years ago, and we said, let's build this together. And literally, she has never been a front-facing so-called event manager or artist manager. And in fact, I think that term really never existed as commonly as it's used today. But back in the day, she actually pulled herself up. She learned about the internet. She learned about smartphones. She learned about Excel sheets. She was managing processes in this company. So she tried to apply those processes to us. She applied ROI, she applied year-on-year growth, and she treated us like products who were placed on, she used to say this thing in her supermarket, if you want something to be bought off the shelf, place it in a way where you can see the label. She put the label on us and she placed us on the right shelf in visibility. She did that for us.
You'll also mastered the art of going beyond the comfort zone. That comes from conviction, that comes from self-belief, that comes from living in the real world.
I think it comes from her.
Yeah.
It comes from
her. And what's
her.
beautiful is mom has continued to be herself. I see pictures and I have the privilege of meeting her twice in a while, thrice in a while. And she goes out and does the thing.
Yeah.
I can remember the recent post of both of you in colored plaits. I thought that was the cutest thing. I went around showing people. Brilliant stuff. Really, really brilliant stuff. And I must tell you, the family, Danish, you and Mom, Yasmin, brilliant combination where you all worked with each other.
Yes.
And so seamlessly. Now I'm going to cut quickly to request you to tell us about the Kubbra that is outside of the professional world.
So again, it's really funny, right? Like every aspect of my life kind of seeps in from the previous part of my life. So I remember going on a holiday once with Mom a long time ago, and it was random. After a few glasses, bottles, liters of champagne, I asked her, I said, what did you really want to be? What was your dream? And she said, I wanted to be a princess.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, wow. But I said, but you are the princess, You're the princess of our lives. And we'll do everything to make you feel the princess you are. And it's so funny because the braids that we wore was actually an inspiration that came from her. She wanted the braids and she gave me the courage to wear them with her, right? So I think what has happened is over a period of time, she has gone out there to experience life through her children. So we've been the outlet. And there have been times when we've shocked her, scared her, jolted her. I remember the first time I did bungee jumping, I sent her the video and she cried for 3 flat days. And the video was sent to her like 10 days after the jump. So she knew I was alive. But somehow every time she saw the video, she was like, oh my God, my daughter is dead. But I'm alive.
Yeah, I know. How do you manage to separate the professional commitment, the challenges?
I think it's very important.
And actually fuel your passion as Kubbra?
I think it's very important. Your profession cannot be you. I've always believed this. So when the people turn around and say actor so-and-so, or anchor so-and-so, or I believe then you're restricting your entire potential to what you do. But you are way beyond what you do. You are what you learn. You are what you absorb. You are what you experience. That is what you take and put a fragment of it into your business or into your profession, which is a small part of you.
True.
So for me, it's always been about traveling the world, meeting people, having conversations. And we were speaking about this earlier, right? Like about what your dad said, about how, you should speak to every denomination of the society. It's very important to interact. Only when you interact do you learn and grow. And that's been extremely important. So for me, that sense of from being close to being open happened through travel. And when you travel and you keep putting these feathers of experiences, different kinds of experiences. Like for me, when I go scuba diving, it's that 1 hour of silence where I only listen to my breath. When I'm jumping off a plane, it's that 1 split second of the unknown, wherein I don't know what's going to happen to me. It's an extreme sport.
Sure.
You're not covered by insurance. If you die, well, you die. But at least I died doing what I wanted to.
Absolutely.
So it's that sense of uncertainty that keeps pushing me to try doing new things. Now I've become, so as an anchor, how event agencies have, made me travel. And we were just putting a list of the countries that I've been to. And it's fair to say that I started traveling only in the last maybe 5-6 years properly. Although I've been out of the house for the last 14 years. But say let's average it out to say 7 years of travel. 35 countries.
Oh, how cool is that?
That feels special. That is an achievement. That is what I would like to put in the CV of the world. It's not a CV for a job. Job is just a part of it. I've changed like 13 jobs. Who gives a shit about my jobs? I've had the opportunity to work with maybe 1,000 people, interact with them professionally. But who gives a shit about that? What did I do for myself is what's important. I mean, I've always, said like, I have this thing that I want to do. I want to raft the Brahmaputra. And I always say that's a story I'm going to live to tell my grandchildren, because apparently the Brahma is the mightiest river. And if you do, and I remember putting my deposit on the trip but I couldn't make it. So for me, it's about the things that you want to do.
So this is what I love, because you see life as a big canvas.
Yeah.
Professionalism has a part to play in it, but life in itself
Yeah.
is important to embrace on your terms.
Yeah.
Given who you are, given who you wish to be, and let nothing come in the way.
Yeah.
It's go out there and do it. There are ups, there are downs. It's all part of the story. It's
all
a
a part of the
journey.
story.
Life is a journey.
Not the
It's not the
destination.
destination. We keep refining it,
And if you don't learn from it, then what's the use?
No, absolutely. Well said.
know?
Well said, Kubbra. I mean, like wow.
Wow.
There you go. There you go. Tell Us Like It is all about getting real stories, talking to real people, and it's been an absolute privilege to chat with you. And there are a whole host of people who hopefully will take a look at this not so little chat that we've had.
Yeah, it's been like so many layers, right? Like short, but not so short.
Right.
It was about actually revisiting so many chapters of my life that, you tend to shut them off and not really go into, those stories.
And it's the positivity that comes out of these stories that I'm hoping will resonate with people who see it.
Yeah, I think every story has a good ending, and I think the mighty Shah Rukh Khan has said it immortally in his film that if the story hasn't ended on a positive note, then the story is still incomplete.
And a story exists beyond the comfort zone, the proverbial comfort zone.
I agree with you. I think it's, the situations and the challenges that you face head on. And, I've always believed you should be that, that inflated doll, when you punched it, it would fall and rise back again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's life.
Resilience, absolutely.
That's it. It's just that at the end of the day. And I remember just a few days ago we were speaking, and sometimes such golden shit comes out of this mouth. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Oof, it's
I'm glad
crazy.
we're capturing it this time. So I have evidence.
It's amazing. So somebody said, so tell me, what do you think about the race? How do you keep up with the race? And I said, why do you need to look at it as a race? It's about flowing like the river. The river does not change its pace looking at another river or another tributary.
True.
It keeps flowing, and across its way you get enough and more boulders, you have conflicts, you have confluences, and the idea is to flow.
It's about looking at and dwelling on the half full rather than the half empty. Positivity.
Yeah.
Looking at how you can up the game, looking at how you can enhance happiness, quotient in
And sometimes
your life.
it can get really tiring. It can be tiring to be positive. It can be tiring wherein you've extended yourself and given yourself out more than you should, more than you can. And it's really hard to run on reserve. So it's very important to revisit yourself and follow your passion, because that's what's going to outlive your profession.
True.
Damn, that was golden.
Yeah. Okay, so, it's that time, unfortunately, when we have to do a bit of a wind down. It's been unbelievable, Kubbra. As well as we know each other. No, really.
I have a crush on you.
You do? That's mutual. Hey, happy campers.
Happy campers.
Happy campers.
Happy campers.
Like I said a little earlier, a whole load of people will consume this for all the right reasons. And is there one mantra? Is there one message? Is there one emotion, one feeling that you'd like to share with the beautiful community out there?
I've always been motivated by this beautiful line which I had read on a hoarding, and it was by Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum. And he said, in the race to uniqueness, there is no finish line. So I think it's important that we keep finding the uniqueness that lies within us. And if you are racing against yourself and the better of yourself, and out-timing and outdoing your own self. Because if you're unique, then there's no finish line to it.
And the bar gets raised all over again.
Wow.
Wow. There you go. I really don't know how to wrap this up, because I just wish it could continue. Like I have, I really hope you can pull a few lessons out of this little chat. It's why we do things like Tell Us Like It Is, to share the real stories and hopefully in the process kind of learn ourselves and share knowledge and share learning. Until the next episode of Tellis Like It Is, going to be difficult to match this one.
Please write your comments in the comment section below. Also, like, subscribe, follow Brian Tellis.
Oh, there
Tellis
you go.
Like It Is.
There you go.